Welcome to the Straight Red Card. Of course, with your two hosts, Brett Corbett, Derek Ritchie, and today we're going to cover a host of our 1-minute segment topics before we get to the big one, which is Goal.com had an article about 5 players with the most to prove, and they listed C.J. Sapong, and this is to Klinsmann, C.J. Sapong, Chris Wondolowski, Jeff Cameron, Michael Parkhurst, and Benny Feilhaber. So we'll talk about those in a minute, but we're going to start with some things that have been in the news that are smaller. And the first thing is I was amazed because it was all over mainstream news, especially ESPN and on PTI even. Wilbon and Kornheiser covered it, and that was Howard's bomb of a goal versus Bolton, which they ended up losing the game 2-1. But they made a big deal of that, and it should be a big deal because it's so rare.
Exactly, it's a rarity.
But the thing was that the topic of discussion was not only the goal so much, but the fact that Howard, just kind of didn't react whatsoever. Which, if you're in our boots, we know why he did that, and he said it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought it was great for Howard for the goal. It's a rarity, like you mentioned. Due to the fact that he's getting all this press from the media, we've actually been noticing quite a bit more press from media like ESPN as far as U.S. players are concerned. But I mean, this goal speaks for itself why it's getting as much press as it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's so rare. But I think Howard's reaction was pretty simple. If you've ever played goalie, you just feel bad for the other goalie when stuff like that happens.
The announcers made the same comment whenever the goal happened.
Yeah.
He wasn't jumping up and down and everything like that. It's a freak incident with the wind.
Right.
It happened, And
there is a fraternity of goalies. I mean, they all talk to each other. They all know each other for the most part. And maybe they don't know each other that well, but you're just not going to,
As pointed out, you got to feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that the bat with the bounce and the wind, that it just picked it up and soared over him. It's unbelievably embarrassing to happen.
Yeah,
concerned, but it's unfortunate.
The thing about it, though, is that goalie really bounced back well. It wasn't like when Green let in the goal versus Dempsey at the World Cup, and he just, he turned like a bright red color. He was so embarrassed. This goalie kind of was like, there's nothing I can do about that.
You can't predict that happening. I mean, you can sort of say, hey, the wind's blowing at me, but whatever.
Yeah, he didn't even blush. Well, I think the other thing I wanted
He's probably pissed off.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, at least finally there's some coverage of this, and I guess my only point outside of this, it would be nice for them to show more goals by, say, somebody like Clint Dempsey on PTI and ESPN whenever he scores a real great goal. That should be a feature more often than just these freak accidents that happen. But all right. So the other things in the news, and I kind of putting all these things into one topic, which is, what does this say about MLS? The fact that Beckham decides, I'm just going to stay in L.A. That's fine. And then there's all these German teams that want all these MLS players. You had Gonzo, who unfortunately ripped up his ACL going against Chandler in practice in Nuremberg.
That was very unfortunate.
That was just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. All
the rumors that Tim Ream's going to Bolton. You already had Henry's going over there on loan. Donovan's going over there on loan. Shea's training with Arsenal. And we've already gone down the list of other, MLS-based players that are over there as well, including Lorenowitz. So, what does this say about the quality of MLS? Because, this has never really happened on this scale before.
Well, and we've always sent players abroad to train. The whole loan aspect has been more of a relatively new feature. You saw more whenever Beckham came to MLS, and it started from there and picked up. I thought the Gonzo move would have been great.
Yeah,
I mean, it would have been great for it was about a 2-month loan or whatever until late February, that he would have been training and playing. And he would have come back in time for the preseason for MLS. It would have been that much sharper, that much better, and hopefully he would have been on Klinsmann's radar.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's great to see all this improvement.
Yeah, and people were
nothing really to say about that.
People were saying, well, why would Gonzo go take a loan to Nuremberg? He finally got his wish and got called up by Klinsmann. From what I hear, and these are just little rumors, that Klinsmann said, go for it, man. He would rather Gonzo go play in Nuremberg. He thought it'd be better for him.
I mean, honestly, can you make that argument? From Klinsman's point of view, you have a player in camp for maybe like a week and a half, compared to his opportunity to go to Germany and play for 2 months.
Yep.
Especially during a long off season where he could be getting fit, getting into shape, getting ready, getting sharper, honing his skills, and preparing for the next call-up, which could, in all honesty, could have been the Italy call-up.
Yep.
Who knows?
Right.
He might have said, hey, if you go there and perform, you might get a shot in Italy.
And isn't that what Klinsman's been saying anyhow? You know, he wants people playing in the best leagues in the world if possible. Yep. So there's no reason that Gonzo...
No.
I'm sure Gonzo called up Klinsman and said, hey, I got this opportunity, and I'm sure Klinsman said, go for it. I don't see any reason why he'd say, well, I want you to...
It has to be made for John, apparently, from whatever transfer possibility or loan possibility for John there is. I don't know.
Yep.
But, I mean, I'm guessing it's the same situation.
Yeah.
I'm sure Klinsman would have been all for it.
Right. And then the only thing I wanted to add about Beckham staying in L.A., I know he mentioned, what does this say about MLS? But the real question, or the real, one of the things you have to take into account here, at least behind the scenes, is that Beckham may have just decided to say for his family. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's my point, too. He's going on 37. Does he really want to uproot his family again for maybe a possibly 2-year contract in Paris?
Yeah, right.
It's just one of those things, I just think that he is more, it's not really convenient per se, but it's, at this point in his life, it's just, especially with the clause in his contract as far as that he has a possibility of purchasing an MLS team.
Right.
These are all factors that are playing into the fact that why would he move?
Yep.
I mean, he's already a bajillionaire.
Yep. There's no point.
He's not even the sole breadwinner in his family,
Yeah, exactly. Well, apparently the offer by PSG was twice that of LA, but after considering it, and then the age of his kids are right at that time where, I'm an Army brat, so I moved all over the place, but still, when his kids are in the LA Galaxy Youth Program, and, they've kind of settled in there, and it'd be hard if you had a choice. We didn't have a choice my dad had to move. But if you have a choice, boy, I think we would have stayed in some of the places. Go ahead.
And again, you're looking at 1 or 2 years. You know? It's not like he's going to be playing in a full another 5 years. I mean, he's 37.
Yep, exactly. And then the only other bad news, I guess, if you're talking about Americans who used to play in MLS, is Eddie Johnson. His little training stint over there in Mexico did not go very well. In fact, the management for the team came out and said he was not only not as fast as we thought he was, i.e. he was slower than we thought he was, he's also not as physically big as we thought he was, which is what they were looking for. So, unfortunately, it didn't work out for EJ.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised as far as his fitness is concerned. Curious to what he's been doing. He's never really been big. Per se, but the speed surprised me. I know I'm not playing for a while. Will have that effect, but I would imagine that much like we saw with several other players like Adu to an extent, when he's not playing, he's training somewhere else, and he's always working on it. But
I mean, there are some people who continue to get faster through their 20s, but once you start reaching your later 20s, you're just not as limber and fast as you were when you were 19, 20, 21 years old. So I'm sure Eddie's slowing down just a little. But then again, Landon Donovan still looked very quick with Everton just this past couple days. So anyhow, next topic was the, I'm just going to have to quote this because this comes from, this is CosmosCountry.com, and it is a supporters group site. And I read this in another place too, but I got the quote here. From that Garber used in speaking about the Cosmos, and this is giving a lot of Cosmos fans the boner that they were hoping for. And let me just read what Garber said. He said, I will say that more and more I'm beginning to get caught up a bit by the Cosmos fever. While I don't regret we didn't purchase the logo when it was available to us in '96, I do believe now that there just seems to be a lot of momentum behind the relaunch of that brand and bringing back some of the excitement and appeal that the Cosmos were able to generate, not just here in New York, but around the world. I think if we were able to find an opportunity on the facility, then we'll be able to have a very fruitful conversation with them about coming into the league. And he finishes by saying one of the major sponsors of the league, you can take your guess on that, also inquired and asked Garber about when the Cosmos were going to join the MLS. Apparently, there's some outside pressure as well. I don't know, Brett. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the comment basically alludes to the fact that it's coming down to not only will the Cosmos succeed in New York, but how much money they'll bring into the league itself. Clearly, there's sponsors willing to pay money and willing to connect themselves to the brand itself, and it doesn't surprise me. I mean, in all honesty, he's a businessman. He needs to do what's best for the league, and if they have new ownership and it's progressing forward, sponsors want them here.
Yep.
They're going to find a way to get him here.
And I think Garber said the new ownership group, he has a lot of faith in them, and that he's hoping that, their new focus on building an MLS team instead of just, selling soccer balls with the Cosmos logo on it, and doing, exhibitions, which they've only done one, right, so far. He likes their new approach, that's not how they're planning on making the Cosmos an MLS team. But let's face it, though, Brett. I mean, they got this far because of what the old ownership group did do, which is they did build up Cosmos fever through their other approach, which was through products and signing all these ridiculous people who had never managed a soccer team in their life onto their program. So that was kind of the way where they got the fire started. But I think what happened is they got to a point above their soccer IQ where it was just too much for them to handle, and it was a good idea to sell it to a new ownership group and let somebody else give it a go and put a new spin on the whole Cosmos coming to MLS thing. So we'll see. Yep. Ching. I said Michael Ching. That brings me back to my tennis days. Michael Ching at the French Open. But no, it was Brian Ching. Hey. No relation. Finally relents after all. Remember, he had that that bluff that, hey, if Montreal takes me, I am quitting. Screw you guys. Well, that's done. He's going to play, he says.
Yeah, he pulled the Brian McBride, and it didn't work. You got to feel bad for the guy still in this situation, but could you turn down an extra $400K for a year's worth of play? I'm
just surprised. Yeah, that
I would have taken it.
Yeah, I would have taken it too. Nearly $500,000, sure. Yeah. Yep. And then the big announcement that ESPN networks are going to air 21 regular game season matches. NBC networks 41 regular season games in 2012. And Galavision, which I don't have, so it doesn't excite me that much, to air 27 MLS matches. Altogether, that's about as much MLS on TV that we've ever seen. Now, it is going to be on NBC networks, which that means some of them are going to be on that NBC
versus or the Sports Network or whatever it is.
Exactly, the
Sports Network. Yep. Yeah, I like NBC's approach. I mean, they have a couple of little videos out there,
commercials,
especially on YouTube, if you will.
Yeah,
and there are the commercials itself. I mean, they are getting the word out there, doing their part to really advertise and really progress it. Hopefully, this is a nice beginning to we can see in the future.
Yeah, it's not a corner kick; it's meat dangling. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like it.
I think it was a corner kick. It was.
Yeah, it's all And what were they? The players were sharks. I don't know. Anyhow, it was interesting.
They're hungry. We know that
they were hungry. Yeah. I guess that it's good news because what it does is reveal that at least for MLS, they continue to pull this off season after season and getting more and more MLS games on TV, which can only be good in the long run for the league. And then I guess the MLS Cup is in December now.
Sucks if it ever is up in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much counts out hosting it anywhere but, somewhere where you're not going to freeze your balls off while you're playing. Although, let's be fair, we've had some pretty mild Decembers lately, so